It was close to midnight when the park lights flickered for the first time. A faint hum filled the empty air, low like a whisper pressed against metal. The swings moved gently, though there was no wind. A man walking his dog stopped near the fence. The dog whined, pulling its leash tight, eyes fixed on the motionless slide where a shadow seemed to crouch. The man squinted, trying to see if someone was there. Then creak, creak, the swing began to move faster. A child's giggle echoed, sharp and wrong, like it came from inside a tin can. The man whispered, "Hello?" The giggle stopped. The swing froze mid-air. When the lights flickered back on, there was no one in the park. Only the man's dog now barking wildly at the swing that still swayed without wind. He dropped the leash and ran. Behind him, the slide's metal groaned, bending under unseen weight. And a child's voice whispered faintly through the night, "Don't leave. We haven't played yet." 3 weeks later, Mina moved into a small apartment across from Ashwood Park, unaware of what happened that night. She was new to the city, an art teacher looking for peace after her mother's death. The park's view from her window had comforted her at first. Quiet, green, framed by rusted benches and old swings. But the locals avoided it after dusk. Even kids who played there during the day refused to go near after sunset. The caretaker, old Harris, was the first to speak to her. "Don't open your windows at night," he said, voice low and dry. "Why?" she'd asked, smiling politely. He looked past her, toward the park. "Because when you hear them laughing, they might call your name next." She thought it was just superstition. But that night, she couldn't sleep. Around 11:37 p.m., faint metallic creaks drifted through her window. A swing moving, then another. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. Text. "Come play." She turned off her phone, heart pounding. When she peeked through her curtain, she saw the swing moving again. Slow, rhythmic and deliberate. In the moonlight, tiny handprints glimmered across the metal chains, and on the sand beneath, the faint outline of bare footprints leading nowhere. Mina tried to ignore it. She taught her classes, graded papers, and told herself she was imagining things. But every night, the same sound came back, soft laughter, creaking metal, whispers calling her name. She finally mentioned it to her student, Eli, a quiet boy who always drew parks in his sketchbook. "Miss Mina," he said, "you live near Ashwood, right?" She nodded. He looked down at his drawing. "My brother went there last year, at night. He never came back." Her chest tightened. "What do you mean?" He slid his drawing across the desk. It showed the park at night, swings, slide, sandbox, and 5 shadowy children standing around a tall, dark figure near the swing set. "The figure's face was just a hole," Eli whispered. "They say the park eats the lonely." That night, Mina dreamt of laughter under flickering streetlights. She saw children's faces, smiling, wide but hollow-eyed. When she woke, her curtains were open. Outside, the swing moved again. This time, a shape sat on it, small, pale, wearing what looked like a torn raincoat. "A little girl, maybe 7, Mina whispered through the window. "Are you lost?" The girl looked up slowly. Her mouth smiled, but her eyes didn't. "Do you remember me?" the child asked. Her voice was distant, layered with echo. Mina froze. "No, I don't think." The girl tilted her head, still smiling. "Then why did you draw us?" Mina slammed the curtain shut, her heart pounding so hard it hurt. The next morning, she tore through her old sketchbooks. On the last page of one from college, she found a charcoal drawing she didn't remember making. The same park, the same 5 shadow children, and one tall black silhouette behind them. 2 nights later, she decided to end it. At midnight, she went into Ashwood Park with a flashlight and her sketchbook. The air was heavy, silent but alive. Her footsteps echoed unnaturally loud, as if the ground itself listened. "Who are you?" she called out, voice trembling. "Why me?" a whisper came from behind the slide. "Because you made us." Her flashlight flickered, then dimmed. The swing began to move, slowly, creak by creak. Then another joined, and another, until all 5 swings moved in sync. The rhythm steady as breath. Through the faint glow of her dying light, she saw them, 5 children, their outlines soft and hazy, like smoke given shape. Their eyes were empty white. One stepped closer. "You forgot us, Miss Mina," another whispered. "You drew us. Then you left." Her breath caught. "I didn't." The tall figure emerged behind them, taller than the slide, face featureless except for a thin line where a mouth should be. Its voice wasn't sound, it was vibration. You gave us form. You will finish the picture. The swings clanged as invisible hands gripped the chains. Mina stumbled back, screaming, "It's just drawings!" "It's not real." But the shadows closed in. Her sketchbook lifted from her hand, pages tearing open. The children's voices rose together, echoing through her skull. "Draw us alive again." She fell to her knees as her flashlight went out. The park lights flickered once. Then the silence came back. At sunrise, the police found the park empty. Only her sketchbook lay on the bench, open to a fresh page. It showed the swing set. And on the swing sat 5 smiling children. In the background, a tall shadow figure stood beside a 6th swing, occupied by Mina. Her neighbors said they sometimes still hear her voice at night, whispering from the park, "Don't draw them. Don't let them see your face." Old Harris retired soon after. The park gates are chained now, but people still claim to hear laughter behind the fence. When the wind blows just right, the swings move again, perfectly in sync. And sometimes, if you stand close enough, you'll hear a woman's voice softly crying beneath the sound of metal chains. "Please, stop drawing." The first lantern appeared on a Thursday night. No one had seen anyone place it, yet there it stood, hanging from the rusted archway of Hollow Ridge Park, swaying slightly in the wind. It wasn't the kind of lantern you bought in stores. Its glass was old, uneven, with faint black soot etched inside, and a soft orange flame that didn't flicker, didn't waver. It simply burned. By morning, 3 more had appeared, each hanging from a tree branch along the walking path. Locals assumed it was an art project, until Martha Lang, the night jogger, vanished. Her last voicemail to her sister was barely audible over the static. "There's someone in the light." The message ended mid-breath. The next day, a 5th lantern appeared at the park's center, still glowing. Inside it, something dark floated, a shape, like a human shadow, pressed against glass, and it was moving. Ethan Cole was a freelance photographer, the kind who spent nights chasing ghost stories for online clicks. When news spread about the Lantern Park, he saw a chance to revive his dead channel. He arrived just after dusk, camera slung over his shoulder. The park was quiet, unnaturally so. The usual cricket chorus was gone. The only sound came from the steady hum of the lanterns swaying in the air. He crouched beneath the first one, snapping photos. Through his lens, the flame didn't look right. It seemed to twist, almost like it was breathing. "Beautiful," a voice said behind him. He spun. An old woman stood by the path, wrapped in a heavy shawl. Her eyes were pale and wet. "Locals say those lights burn for the lost," she said. Ethan half smiled. "You mean like ghosts?" Her expression didn't change. "No, for the ones who go missing, the lantern remembers their shape." She pointed to the 5th lantern, the one at the park's heart. "That one burns for Martha Lang." Ethan laughed nervously. "That's convenient." The old woman stepped closer, lowering her voice. "Just don't touch the light. It takes what it needs." But Ethan was already walking toward it, camera ready. The 5th lantern glowed brighter than the rest, its flame strange and still, almost like a pupil staring back. Ethan lifted his camera and clicked. When he checked the photo, the lantern looked normal, except for one thing. Inside the flame, a face, blurry, pale, screaming. He took another shot. Now there were 2 faces. Both turned toward him. Ethan's breath caught. He lowered the camera and saw something shift behind the glass, like movement trapped in molten wax. A faint whisper brushed his ear. "Let us see you." He spun again. Nothing. Just trees, darkness, and the slow swing of the lantern. That night, back in his apartment, he uploaded the photos. Every image came out wrong, distorted, faces frozen mid-scream. In one, his reflection stared back from the lantern's surface. Only his reflection was smiling. His phone buzzed. "Unknown number text. The 6th is waiting for you." He looked up from the screen and noticed the faint orange glow outside his window. A lantern, hanging, right above his balcony. Ethan couldn't sleep. He tried turning off lights, pulling curtains, even unplugging his camera. But the glow seeped through everything, dim and alive. By midnight, the flame began to pulse. And from outside came voices, children laughing, a woman humming a lullaby, then his name whispered between the sounds. "Ethan." He stumbled to the balcony. The lantern swayed gently, though there was no wind. Inside the glass, he saw movement, his own silhouette standing inside. Flickering in the orange light, he whispered, "This isn't real." The lantern's flame expanded, swallowing its own glass, spilling light across his face. He dropped the camera. The whisper came again, clearer this time. "Every light needs a shadow." The world warped. The city dimmed, everything around him washed in orange. He blinked and found himself back in the park. 5 lanterns hung before him. The 6th dangled in his hands, heavy, humming with heat. The old woman stood nearby, eyes glowing faintly. "You shouldn't have taken its picture," she said softly. "Now it knows you." He stared at her. "What is it?" "The light remembers. The flame hungers. It burns what it sees." The lantern in his hands trembled. He felt something moving inside, pressing against the glass, like fingers from within. "Let me out," whispered his own voice from inside the lantern. He dropped it. It didn't shatter. Instead, it floated upward, joining the others. All 6 now burned in a perfect circle, their lights swirling in slow motion, forming a hollow ring. In its reflection on the wet grass, Ethan saw them. 6 figures trapped inside the glow, mouths open in silent screams. His camera, still on the ground, flashed once. Then nothing but darkness. Morning came. The police found Ethan's camera near the park's fountain. No sign of him, except the last photo, a row of 6 lanterns glowing faintly in fog. In the 6th lantern's reflection, a face stared out. Ethan's. The city fenced off Hollow Ridge Park soon after. Locals say the lanterns still glow at night, but no one goes close enough to count them anymore. Some swear they've seen a 7th one appear, drifting through the mist, searching for the next curious soul to look too closely. And if you ever see an orange light flicker outside your window, don't open the curtains. It might already have your reflection. They said Ravenshade Park had benches older than the trees, carved from dark oak, heavy and cold, the kind that made you feel watched when you sat too long. One evening, a couple, Diane and Rowan, came to the park after an argument. It was nearly empty, the sky bruised purple, the lamps flickering like dying candles. Rowan sat down first, rubbing his face. "Can we just sit in silence for a while?" Diane sighed and sat beside him. "Fine." The wood groaned beneath them. Then, faintly, something whispered, a breath from below the seat. At first, they thought it was the wind. Then the whisper turned into a voice. "Don't leave me here again." Diane froze. "Rowan, did you—" He looked pale. "That wasn't me." They stood up slowly. The voice came again, pleading this time. "Sit back down. I remember you." When they looked beneath the bench, the earth was hollowed, almost like something had burrowed out, and faint handprints were pressed into the dirt, small, deep, fresh. Margaret Delane had worked as a city groundskeeper for 26 years. She cleaned the parks, mended fences, and replaced broken benches. But she never touched the ones in Ravenshade. Every morning she found them damp, even on dry days. And sometimes her cleaning cloth came away black with soot. She'd mutter to herself, "Not my job to fix what remembers." When her new supervisor, Tom, insisted she check under the benches for mold, she refused. "Some things aren't dirty," she said. "They're just marked." But when he threatened to write her up, she agreed to do it one last time. That night, she brought a flashlight and gloves, muttering prayers under her breath. The park was silent. Her light trembled across the nearest bench, long cracks in the wood, names carved deep, overlapping like a graveyard of initials. She knelt and aimed the light underneath. Something moved. A pale hand, small, childlike, slid back into the darkness. Then came the whisper, "You came back, Miss Margaret." She dropped the flashlight and ran. By morning, Margaret quit her job, but the guilt wouldn't leave her. She'd worked that park for decades, and deep down, she knew exactly what she'd seen. She went to the library and searched old city records. Ravenshade Park had been built over the remains of St. Miriam's orphanage, which burned down in 1954. 37 children died in the fire. The bodies were never recovered. The benches were made from the orphanage's beams. That night, Driven by a need to know, she returned to the park. Rain fell hard, thunder distant. As she passed each bench, she noticed the names carved into them had changed, now spelling first names of the children from the orphanage records. When she reached the last bench, her own name had appeared, Margaret Delane, carved perfectly, as if etched by careful, invisible hands. A voice drifted from beneath. "Sit down, Miss Margaret. You left us in the fire." Her legs gave out. She remembered. She'd been 16 then, a maid at St. Miriam's. She was the one who locked the doors that night, too scared to help. "No," she whispered, shaking. "I didn't mean to." But the voice grew louder. "You promised to come back." The bench creaked, and the ground beneath it began to breathe. Lightning split the sky. Margaret stumbled back as the soil cracked open. Tiny, pale arms reached up through the dirt. Dozens of them, grasping, clawing, pulling at her clothes. The benches moaned as if the wood itself were alive, bending, twisting. Each carved name glowed faintly, bleeding black sap that dripped onto the ground. Margaret screamed and turned to run, but every bench she passed whispered her name. "Margaret, Margaret, sit with us." The rain turned to ash. Her flashlight flickered out. In the dark, she saw faces forming on the wet wood. Children's faces, burned, smiling faintly. She dropped to her knees. "I'm sorry," she cried. "Please, I was just a girl." The nearest bench groaned and opened, wood splitting down the center like a rib cage. A void yawned within, black, pulsing, endless. A small hand reached out, brushed her cheek. Then softly, "Then be a child again." She screamed as the bench swallowed her whole. The rain stopped. The wood sealed shut. When the city crew came, at dawn they found a new carving along the edge of that same bench. M. Delane, 25 weeks passed. The city announced a renovation project. Workers removed several benches and took them to a storage lot. But that night the lot guard called in a report. He swore he heard whispers coming from inside the truck, children laughing, singing softly. By morning, all 7 benches were gone. No signs of forced entry, only damp footprints leading out toward the trees. Ravenshade Park is closed now, fenced and locked. Yet sometimes, early joggers hear the creak of wood in the mist, as if someone just sat down. And if you ever walk by and see a bench that looks wet, don't sit, because the wood might shift beneath you, and a voice might whisper in your ear, "You look tired, rest with us." When the city reopened Willowmere Park, people were surprised to see a new playground. Glossy metal, bright paint, freshly poured sand. No one remembered approving its construction. No work orders, no records, but it looked perfect. Too perfect. The slide gleamed like it was waxed in silver. The swing chains had no rust. Even the sandbox smelled faintly of iron, not dust. Children flocked to it for a week. Then one by one they stopped showing up. The last one seen there was Lena Wu, age 9, wearing a red jacket. Witnesses said she was still climbing the slide ladder when the park lights went out. When they flickered back on, the slide was empty. Her shoes were found at the top. Her voice, however, was still heard the next night, faintly giggling from inside the metal tube. David Crane was a city architect. He'd designed parks for 20 years, including Willowmere's renovation. But when the city sent him photos of the new playground, he frowned. "That's not my design," he said. The project supervisor laughed. "Then whose is it?" "The blueprints have your signature." He checked the files. Sure enough, his name was there, but the handwriting wasn't his. Even stranger, the paper looked old, edges yellowed, ink smudged. That night he drove to the park. It was empty, lit by dim amber lamps that hummed like insects. The playground shimmered slightly under the light, as if coated with oil. He touched the slide, smooth, almost warm. Then he noticed something carved near the base. Tiny faint letters. Crane, 1999. His heart froze. That was his own name. And the year he first became an architect. He'd never built this. But somehow it remembered him. David couldn't sleep. His dreams were filled with construction noise, hammering, grinding metal, and a child's laughter echoing through unfinished frames. He woke to find his drafting table covered in new blueprints. Lines he hadn't drawn, a new park, circular layout, 6 structures. In the center, a slide spiraling underground. Every note was written in his handwriting. At the bottom, scrawled faintly, "You started it. Now finish." He took the plans to his old mentor, Dr. Soren, a retired urban planner known for his obsession with living architecture. Soren studied the drawings for a long time, then said quietly, "I've seen this before." In the 1990s, a company tried to create self-replicating material, steel that repairs and evolves itself. It was experimental, abandoned after several deaths. Deaths? David asked. Construction crew vanished. They said the material began rebuilding itself at night, incorporating organic matter. David's throat tightened. "You think the playground?" Soren nodded. "If it's from that project, it's growing. Feeding." David drove back to the park that night, rain soaking the grass. The playground was bigger. New bars, a new bridge, a deeper pit under the slide. He heard something moving inside the tunnel, a wet scraping sound. "Lena?" he whispered. The giggle came again. Then a voice, high, distorted, metallic. "Come play, Mr. Crane." Lightning lit the sky. The ground trembled beneath his boots. From the sandpit, hands emerged, small, pale, covered in rust flakes. They clawed upward, gripping the slide's legs. The metal pulsed like veins under skin. David stumbled back, flashlight shaking. The slide's mouth opened wider, its inner tube twisting, reshaping, forming stairs that spiraled downward. Inside, the giggling grew louder, joined by whispers. Children's voices, layered, echoing. "Builder, builder. Come down." He took one step toward it. The air smelled like iron and blood. He aimed his flashlight inside. The interior wasn't metal anymore. It was flesh, soft, breathing. The slide shuddered, and a face pressed from within. Lena's. Eyes wide, mouth open in a silent scream. David roared and swung his flashlight, smashing it against the metal. Sparks flew, but the slide only rippled, absorbing the blow. He turned to run, but behind him, new structures were rising from the sand. Monkey bars twisting upward like ribs. Seesaws made of bone-white steel. The whole playground moved, slowly growing, forming shapes that resembled children. Soren's voice echoed in his mind. "It feeds." The ground split. A massive beam of twisted metal rose from below, covered in etchings, names. At the top, one name burned fresh. David Crane. He screamed as the slide's mouth opened wide, a tunnel of grinding gears and whispers. Then it swallowed him whole. By morning, the park was quiet again. City workers found no sign of struggle, only David's car, door open, headlights still on. The playground was now twice its original size. And on the slide's surface, new engravings had appeared. Crude sketches of children, holding hands with a man wearing glasses. David's likeness. A city memo ordered the park sealed for safety. But every night, residents nearby hear the faint sounds of welding and hammering, as if someone's still building in the dark. And sometimes, just before dawn, the playground lights flicker on by themselves. If you listen closely, you can hear a metallic whisper rising from the slide's mouth. One more piece. Just one more. The park grows an inch every week, and the blueprints keep appearing, mailed anonymously to the city office, signed in David Crane's handwriting. Every city has a park that feels wrong after dark. For Greystone, that park is Hollow Pines Reserve. Wide lawns, rusted benches, and a lake that reflects no stars. Locals say the place stays clean no matter what. No litter, no graffiti, no broken glass, ever. That's because someone cleans it. Every night, at exactly 3 a.m., the sprinklers hiss to life, the lamps flicker, and a thin man in a faded green uniform walks the paths with a trash picker and an old metal bin. He hums softly, never missing a note. They call him the night janitor. No one's ever spoken to him. No one's ever seen him leave. The rumor says, if you try to thank him, he'll clean you too. Elena Marks, a local journalist, was chasing urban legends for her Midnight Myths column. Stories people swore were true but couldn't prove. The janitor sounded perfect. Old CCTV clips showed a tall, wiry figure pushing a cleaning cart under the lamps, sometimes gliding instead of walking. City records had no employee by that name. When Elena asked Parks and Rec, the clerk frowned. "Ma'am, the night shift ended in 1998. She went there anyway, recorder in hand, thermos of coffee, flashlight strapped to her wrist. It was 2:47 a.m. The park was still, drenched in silver fog. By 3 The lamps blinked on one by one, and from behind the maintenance shed, she saw him. Tall, thin, uniform spotless, though decades old. He carried a long stick with a nail at the end and a bin full of dark bags. Elena whispered into her recorder. Visual confirmed. Male, mid-60s, about 6'2". Behavior, repetitive, methodical. Possibly homeless. The janitor paused mid-step, slowly turned his head, and smiled at her. Elena returned every night for a week. The janitor always appeared at 3:00 sharp, always humming the same low tune, something between a lullaby and a dirge. One night, she brought her camera crew. They set up 3 cameras, one at the entrance, one by the lake, one near the old carousel. But when they reviewed the footage later, the janitor wasn't there, not once. Only Elena, walking, talking, laughing to herself. Picking trash off the ground, her producer looked uneasy. "You were alone, Elena." "No, he was right there," she insisted. "He even spoke to me." "Spoke?" She froze. "Had he?" In her mind, she heard it again, faint, wet, echoing under her breath. "You shouldn't leave things behind." She played the recorder, static. Then, a whisper under the noise. "You dropped something." She checked her bag. Her ID card was missing. When she returned to the park, it was hanging neatly from the janitor's belt. Pierced through with the nail of his trash picker, Elena hid behind the carousel, heart pounding. The air smelled like bleach and wet soil. She watched the janitor move through the mist, his shadow stretching impossibly long. "Why do you do this?" she called out. He stopped, turned. "Someone must keep it clean," he said. His voice was metallic, hollow, like air blowing through a pipe. "Who are you?" "Custodian. For the city?" He smiled. "For what's left of it." She raised her camera. "I'm filming this. You already are." He lifted his hand, and in her viewfinder she saw herself from above, kneeling on the grass, holding an empty camera. The world tilted. The lamps blinked one by one until only the one over her remained. The janitor stepped closer, dragging his metal bin behind him. Inside were things, hands, shoes, hair, all arranged neatly. "Don't worry," he whispered. "You'll fit." She screamed and swung her flashlight. It passed through him like mist, scattering dust and old leaves. Then he was behind her. She turned, and the park was gone. Only endless paths of white gravel, looping forever, every bench identical, every tree the same. He handed her the trash picker. "It's your shift now." The next morning, Hollow Pines was spotless. Police found Elena's car by the gate. Doors locked. Thermos still warm. The city closed the park for maintenance. 3 weeks later, people noticed the lamps flickering at 3 on again. A janitor appeared, shorter now, hair tied in a bun, humming a different tune. If you looked close, her name tag said E. Marks. The old janitor was never seen again. And though the park is closed sometimes, when the fog rolls in, you can hear her voice under the trees. "Please, don't drop anything." No employment records found for Elena Marks after October 3rd. Park soil samples show traces of ammonia, detergent, and human DNA. Trash bins in Hollow Pines always contain exactly one full black bag every morning. The bag is never taken by sanitation. It simply vanishes before sunrise, at exactly 3 a.m. New security footage captured a single frame before the feed cuts to static. A gloved hand holding a trash picker, reaching toward the camera. The timestamp reads 03 or in birds, then the park lights go dark.